Hey guys, it's Chase with csjoseph.life doing Chase's Choice question and answer for the month of December 2019. It's been a while since we've seen each other. It's been weeks, actually. So it happens when you're on bed rest for a long while. And honestly, I'm exhausted still and coming off of my sickness. But I'm all hopped up on caffeine right now. Enjoyed myself a bottle of Mexican Coca-Cola, which is something that I only drink in the month of December because that's just some family tradition I had as a small child. So, anyway, today I'm going to be answering your questions, and I'll be doing that in the YouTube chat as well as Discord. If you super chat me, then you'll get top priority for your questions. Otherwise, it's just standard Q&A. Who knows how long we'll be here? I might end the show earlier because I'm tired and exhausted, or the drop frames get terrible. I did not restart my computer before going live, and I realized I probably should have. And based on that, kind of like, ugh. So, but I'm sure everyone's like wondering, like, whoa, when's your lectures coming out? I hopefully plan on, I plan on getting plenty of lectures out this week. I've just been extremely busy trying to pick up the pieces after my long absence, and I appreciate the patience of this audience to allow that. So, but anyway, I will choose which questions I'm going to answer, and let me find the questions channel. Let's see here what we got going on here, and we'll kind of see how I look like in the thing. Hopefully this works still. Does this work? Yeah, cool, it works. Awesome. Hopefully you guys could see that. And we'll go back and forth. So great. So awesome. Am I feeling better? Kind of. I don't exactly have a headache right now, but I'm doing well. I found out that certain kind of cough syrup immediately puts me to sleep, though. Railgun figured that out, and I actually been sleeping pretty well. So, yeah, it's been a little interesting. So, but awesome. All right, well, of course, we got tons of people here. Lishneros, Buga, Sia, Schilt, Chris Try, Austin Renteru, Boris Van Droof, the man. I saw Boris. You sent me a video on Facebook. Before I do anything, folks, I just would like to state that if anyone would like, I decided to come back to Facebook and take Facebook seriously. So if you'd like to become friends with me on Facebook, go to that link. I just put it in the live stream chat and add me to friends. Now, if you don't look like a real person, I'm not going to accept your friend request. So, like, it has to, like, be an actual profile with actual information on it. So you're welcome to add me to Facebook friends if you want. I'll be putting out specific content just to my personal Facebook. So, yeah, a little bit more about my life and whatnot. If you want in on that, then I suggest you get on my Facebook. That also includes, like, I'm going to be releasing specific content, like, little cheat sheets and whatnot, but probably going to be only available through my Facebook profile. So again, if you guys want to get in on that, you might want to hit Facebook. Also, I'm very partial to the audience right now in terms of whoever hits like on the CS Joseph Facebook page. Like buttons are nice, and I like it when people hit the like button. I'll admit, I've been a little bit afraid of Facebook for a long while, but I decided to stop being afraid of Facebook and get actually involved with Facebook. And I've met a ton of cool people. Although for some reason people think I'm Calm Jet right now, or Jet Calm, or whoever that guy is who's an ESTP or claims to be an ESTP running a few Facebook groups. But for those of you that care or wonder, I am not that guy. So there you have it. And I do have a little funny story to share with you folks at the end of the show today that did come from one of my Facebook encounters this week. So stay tuned if you want to watch me or listen to me roast somebody on Facebook. It's absolutely fun. So Yeah, I have Instagram too. You can go to at cs.joseph if you want to do Instagram. It's all good. So, awesome. Okay, let's see here. So, in what way does SI make someone more resilient than SE users? So, SI is all about having a lot of endurance. They can get through anything, basically. And long suffering, perseverance, being able to take the hits. They just outlast everyone. SI users outlast. And it's also because, like, it's a kind of an interesting form of self-preservation, a little bit. And personal safety awareness, etc. And also doing things habitual because everything is a habit because for the name of safety. So that's what SI users are all about, Mr. Boff Boz. So, Austin Williams asks, what do you think about varicella disease? You mean varicella virus, which basically everyone on the planet has? Everyone, like 95% of the planet has a varicella virus? Are you talking about that? Watch out for Epstein-Barr, folks. That'll get you. Okay. So... Okay, Savatarix, like, let's be straight. Like, no need to have, like, performance anxiety when it comes to Facebook. Like, just be real, man. Like, you're all good. You don't have to worry about that. Are INTPs more likely to be cat or dog people? I honestly don't know the answer to that question. But if I was to venture a guess, I'd say cats, for sure. Jermaine Harris asks, I have an ENFJ friend who likes me secretly and is trying to make it obvious to me, and I'm an INFP male and I need advice. Well, do you like them back? If you like them back, why don't you tell them that it's okay to like you and be direct about it, even though you're very informative? But, like, why not? I mean, do you not want them? If you don't want them, then tell them that you're not comfortable. That's all you got to say. But if you like them, then just be like, then let them want you. ENFJs are wanty. It's all about the wantiness. You know what I'm saying? Let them be wanty, right? All right. Let's see. Okay. What is your best advice for an ISFP dealing with an INTJ brother, Destino Coley? Well, I would say don't put your status over the INTJ at all. Don't accuse the INTJ of being selfish, even though the INTJ accuses you of being selfish the whole time. Think about it like in a form of reverse hypocrisy. Because any criticism that you leverage against that INTJ, you're guilty of yourself. So instead, do the opposite of that. Don't criticize them for the same things that you're doing. Criticize them for things that you know that you aren't doing. Not necessarily criticizing on what you feel other people perceive you doing, because that's completely different. Because then you're inviting in indignance, and that's not going to help. What is indignance? Indignance, it's probably like the one thing that my INFJ mentor like absolutely like threw in my face all the time. He'd always call me indignant. And it's because I would be reacting negatively to perceived unfair treatment. See, sometimes people just get mad because they're perceiving unfair treatment when it's not actually unfair at all. When it is fair treatment. That's what it means to be indignant. So my number one piece of advice to you, good sir, don't be indignant. Because indignance is what's going to cause that INTJ relationship to basically blow up in your face. Also, stop trying to show the INTJ things. Let the INTJ show you things. And react and pretend to react positively to the INTJ showing you stuff. You know? And stop trying to be like, oh, you know, I wish my brother would come to me. No. Go to your brother with stuff. Initiate with him. It's not all about you, right? But then you're like, well, it's all about him. Yeah, it really is. But do you want a relationship with him or not? If your NI wants a relationship with your INTJ brother, the onus is on you. If you don't want a relationship with your INTJ brother, then keep things business as usual. It's up to you, right? Otherwise, watch How to Social Engineer INTJs or 8 Rules for Loving INTJs when it comes out. Should be soon. By the way, guys, we have a new website now. We're still migrating stuff from the old website, which is at blog.csjoseph.life right now. I apologize for the monstrosity of the original website. We're going to be getting that very fixed in the very near future. Everything will be moved over. We're also going to be releasing a new schedule. I think my live stream is going to be coming out at 9 Eastern most days instead of 8 Eastern. 8 Eastern has been a little bit difficult to maintain because, I mean, as everyone can tell, I'm usually an hour late. But I was pretty much on time today, so from a 9 Eastern point of view, which is great. Just something that I need. All right, next question. Daniel Karaoke, how sensitive are low SI users compared to high SI users? So that all depends. The higher the SI, the higher the sensitivity. But the thing is, the lower the SI, the higher the reaction, it would seem, in some cases. So, like, and I'm an SI inferior, right? If I'm in bed at night and I'm just not, like, perfectly comfortable in some capacity, I'm, like, really cranky. So that's just, like, something that I have to deal with. And it's hard. Like, if the temperature's wrong, or if the blankets are wrong, or something. If something's off, I'm off, right? And I can get, like, it's kind of interesting because I come off like some SI user who's, like, basically a baby, you know? It's really weird. So, all right, Boris Van der Roof asks, Chase, can NI critic and FI critic manifest in similar ways? I don't deserve to get what I want. Kind of. I mean, I don't deserve to get, like, FI critic is all about personal deservation, but NI critic is like, it's more like it's irresponsible for me to get what I want. Because what I want is irresponsible because everyone's desires are irresponsible. It's best to do our duty. So they're kind of technically different, Mr. Boris. Dr. Perfect asks, can you talk about ISFP's thinking functions sucking? I'm trying to help a friend with his functions. Some ISFPs are actually pretty brilliant. Especially when it comes to art and systems and running assembly lines, for example, they're amazing mechanics. I don't understand what the issue is here. They can actually become pretty brilliant if they devote their life to reading, and reading nonfiction at that because of TE inferior. But an ISFP doesn't exactly care about what's true or false. It's all about belief and what people believe. That's all they want. So give it to them. Let them live their life the way they want to live it. Sometimes they want to live their life with their head in the sand. If that's the case, you just criticize them. Or prove to them that their beliefs are incorrect, and they'll change because their SE parent is aware of reality, which is great. At least they have SE parent because they are in tune, especially from a pessimistic point of view, as to what reality is. Except for when their anti-trickster gets in the way and all of a sudden they start believing the concept of luck is actually real and they end up losing all their money in a casino like a jackass. But otherwise, probably, I'm sure that's not most experience with the ISFP. By the way, folks, keep your SFPs out of casinos. Casinos were created specifically for getting SFPs to be that gateway in your family of sucking all the money out of your family through your SFP. Don't take them to casinos. And if you're an SFJ enabling an SFP with your bad habits and taking them to the casino, wow. Don't be a bad person. So, all right. Draxel Ken says, who are more affected or less self-control? TI hero or FI hero? That depends, honestly. And it's also kind of subjective because FI heroes, INFPs, and ISFPs, you could argue that INPs are too self-controlled and then ISPs are not self-controlled, but then if they're like advanced or mature, it could go either way. So, what's it going to be, right? Like, I could argue it both ways. Traditionally, INPs are seen as more self-controlled because they're SI users, and NI child of the ISPs are more, more impulsive, but that's not necessarily always the case. It just depends if they're more focused or more developed within their subconscious or their shadow, quite frankly. So, not necessarily the truth, right? All right, so let's okay. Sagittarius. Wait a minute. Gosh, trying to figure out here. Let's see. Lost my place here. All right. Okay. Eat my origami. Hey, Mr. Joseph, what do you think about the psychedelic experience? I don't think very much of it because I haven't had that many about in regards to that. Usually it's because I either start puking or I'm like sick. Can I have some books for INTJs? Sure. Read The Ideal Team Player, Lean Startup, and Entre Leadership by Dave Ramsey. Malaz Forever. How can an INTJ have a healthy mother-daughter relationship with an ESFP mother? Move out of the home as quickly as possible and assert your own authority as a person and human being with independence by having your own car, your own job, your own home, and get away. That's probably the best advice I could give. Otherwise, long term, honestly, just recognize that your ESFP mother will be selfish, and you can call her out, but it's just going to be a negative relationship. You were probably put in that family specifically to challenge your mother because challenging your mother will keep her sharp. Kind of like, Red Dwarf. Why Lister's ex-girlfriend or girlfriend Kachansky wasn't resurrected as a hologram, and instead Arnold J. Rimmer was resurrected as a hologram specifically because Rimmer would annoy Lister the entire time and keep him sane because he's the last human alive. Whereas the AI of the ship decided that resurrecting his girlfriend would not be ideal or proper. So I think that it would be like applicable to your family in that regard. So yes, I compared your family to a BBC comedy. Sorry. Okay. Why do ENFPs, Alex Jones, get into weird shit even though TE should be able to look out for the right info? It's because of extroverted intuition. It's all about possibilities. When you mix TI trickster with any hero, anything can be true, and then anything can be possible. Then all of a sudden you have some guy going off about turning the frogs gay on live television. So, what do you expect? Welcome to ENFPs, right? So that's why I take issue with a lot of ENFP leaders out there. Like David Asprey of Bulletproof, he's an ENFP. Or Glenn Beck, he's an ENFP. Or, Ty Lopez, he's an ENFP. So, just take what ENFPs say with major grains of salt, especially if they're spiritual leaders. Let's be honest. So yeah. Let's see here. Leash Narrows, what are your thoughts on developing the pessimism of the superego into something better and less horrible? As that is answered in season 19. If you want to find out that information, go to patreon.com/csjoseph or go to csjoseph.life/Patreon. And by the way, going to that webpage, you'll see every bit of Patreon content we've ever released, and there's a ton of it. And then you'll see how that goes. So, all right, let's see. A super chat came in. Thank you, Ashes Phoenixborn, for your $5 donation. We very much appreciate it. Do you have a question that you would like to ask? So, ESFP male and ENTP female for a relationship. I don't really recommend superego relationships, even though they're technically compatible. So I'm not sure if Ashes Phoenixborn has a question to ask, but we'll monitor the channel to see if that's the case. So, and for some reason I can't scroll up. Oof, because the live dashboard is crashing. Okay. I'm going to move over to the questions for CS Joseph page right now because for some reason I can't actually see anything on the live page now. Oh, no, came back. Awesome. All right. I'm going to scroll through, find some more questions. Can INTPs be players? Yes, absolutely they can. What's the best way for an INFP to develop their parent function? Through suffering and having bad experiences consistently in their life until they learn to stop having bad experiences in their life and stop like allowing themselves to have bad experiences, because sometimes they get a little too lazy to that end. All right, so okay. Looking for some other questions. Are ISFJ known for procrastination? No, they're not. How could they're very diligent workers. I really enjoy ISFJs. How can an INTP have a healthy relationship with ESFP mother? Well, you take care of the ESFP mother, make her feel better, but you always criticize her when you need to. Don't ever take her choice away. Probably do that. What do I say to an ENTJ who believes people with depression should just man up? Well, I mean, in some cases, some people with depression do need to man up. So what do you want me to say to that? I get that people maintain depression as a form of, issues, but a lot of depression can be cured with changing eating habits. So like there's tons of research on that. I recommend like actually looking up that. Go to fixyourgut.com. I wonder what it has to say about depression. A lot of people use, the label depression as a crutch to basically, decide to be irresponsible in their life. So otherwise, if the ENTJ is just like, call out an ENT. If you need to call an ENTJ, call them out on their achievements or their ability to execute. And if they're not able to execute, then you have a quarrel with them, or you have something you can criticize them on. If not, well, there's not much that you could do about it. Or are you trying to go to the ENTJ and asking them for handouts? I wonder. A lot of people, who suffer with depression, that I've been in experience with, sometimes when they're using it as a crutch, they're trying to use it in a way to get something out of other people. It could be sympathy, it could be empathy, who knows? Or they just want to be left alone. ISTPs experience depression all the time, especially because they're working in the wrong place for the wrong boss, having their choices being taken away from them, having to trade their precious time for money that's not really worth very much, and they know it and they hate it. So they get very depressed, right? It's pretty natural. Or ESTPs, they can get depressed because, no one values them and no one is either giving them a system to solve a problem, or no one is doing it better than they are so that they can mirror that person to become better themselves. It's a complete lack of support, right? So, but it usually has to do with taking their choice away. So just understand that, like, depression, in my opinion, is usually kind of like closely linked to someone being prevented, either themselves preventing or other external forces preventing somebody from developing their subconscious, which can usually come as a result of failing to perform the 4 pillars of self-intimacy, which is season 6 here on this YouTube channel. The 4 pillars of self-intimacy are as follows. You need to take responsibility for meeting your own needs. You need to have your own personal standards, which are the rules that you live by so that you guarantee that you continue to meet your own needs and not expect anyone else to meet your own needs. And then the third rule is enforce your personal boundaries. The rules that you have to force other people around you to not get in the way of you meeting your own needs, which is typically almost always family, let's be honest. And the 4th pillar, which is having your personal goals. This is why you don't ask a child what they want to be when they grow up. You instead ask the child, what are you going to do to meet your own needs when I am no longer meeting your needs? That is what you ask your children, right? So be aware of that. It's super important, okay? So, we got another super chat. Thank you, Mr. Savaterix. Much appreciated. Your videos have a lot of INFPs mistaken as INFJs, also INTPs mistaken as INTJs. If you wouldn't mind, could you please explain this common pattern of behavior from MBTI types? The reason why... rules of self-intimacy. You go to this YouTube channel, you click playlists, you find season 6, and you watch all episodes in order to answer that question. Mr. Savaterix. According to season 15, episode 12, which is also available on this YouTube channel, playlists, season 15, scroll down to episode 12. The MBTI letter dichotomies debunked lecture will answer your question. However, be given that you've given me an almost $25 super chat, which I do appreciate, good sir, I will answer your question. INFPs thinking they're INFJs. It's for the same reason that Frank James, an INFP, thinks he's an INFJ. So what does the J stand for in traditional MBTI letter dichotomies? It's because J types are known as decision makers, specifically organized or decision makers. They're focused on decision makings. But an INFP, according to the MBTI lettering system, their hero function is a decision making function. It's introverted feeling, right? But they're known as an INFP according to the MBTI. According to Socionics, however, they're actually an INFJ. So they have a more accurate lettering system over at Socionics, one of the few things that Socionics is great for. So just something to be aware of to that end, right? So when the tests are determining the letter dichotomies, the tests are not really aware of that distinction between cognitive functions, and oftentimes INFPs mistype as INFJs, or INTJs mistype as INTPs. It's extremely common. We have noticed that thus far, in terms of people taking tests and whatnot, in terms of the accuracy of tests, based on the many, many people that I've coached and some of my customers and the people that they have within their coaching clients and whatnot, and verifying all those people's types, currently the statistic that we have right now is about 22.5% of people who take the tests actually get an accurate result based on the people that we've typed. And over the last year, I'm just about to break like 1,000 people. And that's a lot of people. So based on that, test results are not exactly accurate, Mr. Saboterix. So just please understand that, this is why this is happening. The letter dichotomies cannot detect the cognitive functions, and because the MBTI lettering system is vastly inferior compared to the Socionics lettering system, because the Socionics lettering system is actually, in my opinion, very accurate, this is why it happens. Now, granted, the Socionics people would probably be like, well, then why aren't you using the Socionics lettering system? The reason why is because it doesn't make good for good SEO. So, search engine optimization, people are assuming what their types are, so I'm moving forward with the current generally accepted lettering system. It is what it is, and y'all are just going to have to get over it. I want my stuff to be searchable, so that's what I do. It's not my fault that Socionics decides to use their stand on their lettering system, and it doesn't exactly help them with their search engine optimization, but it's not my problem. But at the same time, because we don't have a lettering system that's some gross standard all the way across the board, it's creating confusion. This is what's leading to people telling me that I'm a charlatan when it comes to my arguments about duality versus conflict relationships. Yeah, it's because the lettering systems are making it hard for people to translate what anyone's actually saying. That's why I'm creating my own standard based on what I teach to be the de facto standard moving forward, so that we have that, at least a standard that we all can agree on. Now, some people have ventured to say, oh, you're pretty arrogant, Mr. C.S. Joseph, for doing that. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure I can see your argument, but here's the thing. My show, my rules. So get over it. I'm making it happen. So, Mr. Saboterix, I really hope that answers your question. If that does not answer your question, send me a message in Discord, and we'll see if I missed the mark on that one. So, okay. Now, Desak Religious D, thank you for your super chat, $2, much appreciated, good sir. Although I'm not sure if you had a question related to that. Same thing for Ashes Phoenixborn. Send me a message in Discord if you guys had questions, or just keep repeating it in the live stream chat so I could see it. I'd appreciate it. And Elise Esk, thank you for your super chat. And you asked, how does INTJ and INFJ relationship look like? It looks horrible. I did a similar drawing about this recently, but you know what? Why not? Let's play around here, shall we? Let's go to let's go to the whiteboard. I like the whiteboard. We can get that done for you. All right, let's look at this. All right, so we All right. All right, we now have a bedroom. We're going to put the INTJ right here. Then we're going to put the INFJ right here. My question to you is this. Who is on top? Seriously, who's on top? Because, like, I mean, you know, why is that? Because when you look at cognitive synchronicity, and this is in Season 5, go to playlists, folks. Check out Season 5, Cognitive Synchronicity. Season 5, Cognitive Synchronicity. All right. So with cognitive synchronicity, we have extroverted sensing likes to consume introverted sensing, right? Extroverted sensing likes to give good experiences to introverted sensing. Or in the case of like dogs and cats, right? Extroverted sensors like to mount SI users in the bedroom, right? So when you have two extroverted sensors, it's like having two mounters. It's like having two tops with no bottoms, right? Imagine if this was a homosexual relationship. Who's going to be the top? Who's going to be the bottom? Tell me. Because you have two extroverted sensors, so you have two tops. Who's on the bottom, right? How do you determine this? Look at it this way. When you're painting a canvas, right? The SI user is the canvas. Someone who reacts, you know, when they like to be touched, right? SE users are the touchers in a sexual relationship. The SI user likes to receive touching, right? Typically, this is I'm being very general here, okay? So when you have that, there's a lack of sexual compatibility, right? And that's why there could be sexual relationships that are unfulfilled because you have two touchers and not a touchy, where you need a touchy and a toucher in the same relationship. This is basic sexuality, folks. And this is the primary reason why an INTJ and an INFJ relationship don't work. Because it's like, ooh, we both have performance anxiety, and we're like really afraid we're gonna perform badly in the bedroom. And none of us has introverted sensing, so we're not really going to respond to each other because we're both trying to touch the other person. We're both trying to give them a good experience. We're both trying to get off their reaction, right? But they don't react. These two types don't react sexually. There's no reaction to it because they both have SI demon. They don't do reactions. They're looking for you to be comfortable. They're looking for your reaction. Male or female doesn't matter, right? So how can this be a good relationship? It's not. I don't recommend it. If you find yourself thinking that you're an INTJ or an INFJ relationship, chances are you're mistyped. Because naturally, the way our brains work, we're able to suss out whether or not someone is compatible with us before we have a sexual relationship. So chances are, especially since tests are 23% accurate, you would basically know at this point that like, oh, well, chances are we're mistyped, or at least one of us is mistyped, which means if you are mistyped, chances are you're actually potentially in a really good pair, a bronze pair, silver pair, or golden pair, which means you actually do have sexual compatibility. It's very unlikely that this relationship would ever exist. It's very unlikely. I just don't see it. It can happen. It usually happens between like two INTPs or an INTP and INFP. That can happen. I don't really ever see it between two INJs. I just don't. So double check with that in the future. So, all right, Tina Prosenko. Let me get this adjusted here. All right, new super chat. Tina Prosenko, thank you for your super chat. How can an ENTP female get an ESFP male to date them? Basically, you tell the ESFP what you're doing at all times and send them photos of what you're doing at all times and be like, hey, do you want to go? You just provide choices to the ESFP and let the ESFP make the choice. Sometimes the ESFP is too scared to make the choice, so you have to be their taste tester first, and then they'll make the choice. That's basically all it is. You tell them, hey, I'm going to go watch this movie. You want to come? I'm going to go to Target. Want to come? I'm going to go get this Lego. Want to come? I'm going to go see this show. Want to come? I'm going to go shoot these clay pigeons with a shotgun. Want to come? I'm going hiking this day. Want to come? It's all about you and what you are doing. Make it about what you're doing, and the ESFP will decide to follow. If they don't want to come, they're not interested in you. Move on. It's that simple. Vegan Boy, next question, asks, NI is fire, NI is water, SI is earth, SE is wind. What are the other 8 functions? You've mentioned their weapons. We had some art created by Frankie. If you guys don't know who Frankie is on Instagram and made some amazing art with the other functions. I don't understand why he's saying 8 functions though. He's saying 4 functions. So like there's like a pole arm. There's a mace. There's a big sword, etc. Bow and arrow. Some of the weapons are actually kind of indicated within the symbols of the types that we've come up with recently. But yes, they are weapons. We're still don't exactly have them finalized. I wish I could actually pull up what we have. Maybe I could find it on my Instagram here. Hopefully I could find it here. It's been a while since I did that, so let's go back in time. Maybe I can find it here. So let's see. Maybe we didn't actually ever post them to Instagram. I don't remember. We'll have to get back to you on that one. If you want, you can ask another question, good sir, because I'm not able to pull that up right now. It's just been so long since I've developed that side of the content yet. I haven't returned to it in a while. So, oof. That's, oh, wait a minute. Oh, actually, I found it. Okay, cool. So for TE, it's a bow and arrow. And for FI, it's a pole arm. And for FE, it's a mace. And for TI, it's a double-edged sword. That's right. And if you want to see photos of it, just go to at Frankie Sig, FRINKYSIG. She's an amazing artist, an INFP artist. And she drew these amazing pictures for us. I would also like to have the opportunity to publicly thank her for her amazing work because she does exquisite work. So shout out to Frankie. I love your art, and I'm very thankful for the work that you did. It's excellent. So anyway, glad I could have found that. Awesome. All right. Spooky Ghost gave me $10. Thank you. Here's some NyQuil money. Thank you, good sir. I appreciate that. John Bodine, Super Chats. Looks like the Super Chats are stealing the show tonight, folks. Hey, Chase, you may have covered this somewhere, but how does SI Demon's relationship to the past change as it moves towards angelic aspiration? It's not... the self-sacrifice is not basically focused on taking others down with it. The self-sacrifice is more so basically realizing one's own internal demons actually provide a threat to the world, and they're actually willing to remove themselves from the situation for the sake of others, which ends up causing the INJ to realize for sure that they should not be a burden to other people. And that's the form of an angelic SI demon, is being less of a burden through other people, and it's expressed through an extroverted sensing aspirational function as a result, through cognitive orbit, okay, through that expression. So that's how I would answer that question, Mr. John Bodine. Okay. And Sagittarius, back again. Let's see. When using the type grid, I find that many people tend to cover up their insecurities or proof with isolated incidences. For example, I have SE inferior because 5 years ago I got nervous competing. How do you avoid this problem? Well, I just call them out. I mean, people think that the events in their life is what causes them to behave a certain way, and they don't realize that their nature is what it is. You know what I mean? Like, remember, it's nature versus nurture, right? Your nature is the foundation of your behavior, but nurture is, the outside of the foundation. It's like the drywall or the walls or the bricks or around your life, and that's as a result of competing natures or natures of other human beings in your life, essentially, and sometimes that can create insecurities or not, depending on the people in your life that you align with and who you're comfortable with, to that end, etc. And that's just kind of how I'd go about doing that. So hold on one second. Let me. Looks like I got 2 messages here. Okay. Thank you, Christian. We have Ash's and we have Sacrilegious D's questions. I will get to you. I'll get to your guys' questions right away. And thank you, Christian. Shout out to Christian for being the dopest. I really appreciate you doing that for me, bro. It'd be nice to have you on the show sometimes, by the way. I really like your input. So anyway, people often use their type or the type grid as a crutch for excusing their behavior. But the thing is that, at the end of the day, especially when you're looking at like the path to enlightenment or the path to cognitive integration according to season 19, Mr. Sagittarius, people still have the responsibility to grow up. You should never be using your type as a crutch or an excuse for bad behavior. It's not worth it. It's not real. So don't do it. Like, there's no point. So just focus on being the best possible you. If you're like, I tell ENTPs or ENFPs, if you're afraid of it, it's your duty to do it, right? That, get over your insecurities. If you're afraid of something, you have to do it. I tell extroverted sensing inferiors, be okay with failure. Failure brings you wisdom. Failure makes you better, So I tell SE inferiors to seek failure. That way, they don't have an excuse. They can't use the type grid as a crutch, basically. So no one has an excuse. Or TI inferiors for you ENFJs and you ESFJs out there. I tell you both, like, hey, stop trying to get everyone else to listen to you. If you want anyone to listen to you, you better be willing to listen to others first. Like, straight up. To FE inferiors, sometimes you have to be willing to tell the truth to hurt people's feelings. And remember, the truth is more important than other people's feelings because feelings are subjective, whereas truth is consistent. Subjectivity is basically a form of lack of integrity or lack of consistency, right? So if you're FE inferior and you're telling someone the truth and they feel bad for it, what business do you have feeling guilty because you're just calling them out on their lack of consistency? That's on them. That's not on you. So stop feeling guilty about something. It's like feeling guilty over spilled milk. Stop doing it, right? To extrovert intuition inferiors, if you're afraid of not being wanted, then why don't you go out of your way to make yourself desirable? That's actually on you. That's not on other people, right? So, and, SI inferiors, like I said, fear of the unknown, go for it, move forward. TE inferiors, make sure your opinion is actually valuable before you share it. It's that simple. But the thing is that you can have potentially the most valuable opinion anyway, right? So stop being insecure and afraid that your opinion is not valuable. It's not valuable because you don't take the time to read, and that's your own damn fault. It's not mine or anyone else's. Read nonfiction, TE inferiors. Wake up. So, what's the point? And FI inferiors, if you're so afraid of being bad people, why don't you force yourself to be generous and create a system around being generous, where you're like, I'll give X amount of money or X amount of time or do this one generous thing for this one person once a month for the rest of my life. Have a system around it so that you always have concrete proof or evidence that you did do your good deed for the day or the month or whatever, right? And, make it worth it. It's not that hard. Even a tenth of what you do as an ETJ, it would be amazing. So, have self-respect in that regard. So, okay. Okay, so let's see here. Some of these I can't see for some reason. Here we go. Shay Gibbard asks, when someone is drunk and they insult you, what side of the mind is being shown? Are they speaking the truth? It's kind of their shadow and kind of their inner side, and yes, they are speaking the truth. Anyone who says, oh, that wasn't really me because I was drunk, they're lying. Or they possibly believe their own lies. So, don't even go there. Don't even believe them. They're lying. So, everyone is responsible when they're drunk. Oh, I blacked out. Okay, thank you for being irresponsible. When they say things when they're drunk, they're actually really telling the truth. So if they say otherwise, they're lying. Don't believe them. And it's their shadow, typically. So now if they're hopped up on stimulants at the same time they're being drunk, then you might be able to get their subconscious out of that in that situation, depending on the balance between stimulants and depressants in their system. But ultimately, it's the shadow speaking. So, all right. Let's see here. Okay. And, all right, cool. Next question from Ashes Phoenixborn. It is, I'm trying to help my INTP brother with his severe social anxiety. He's very lonely and he has asked for my help, but is resisting my various approaches. INTP social engineering. Even though he self has admitted to be in a dangerous mental space, he fights advice. Is this typical? Yes. So here's how you get your INTP brother to move his butt. Ask him for help. Legitimate help. Ask him to solve specific problems. And once he starts solving problems, give him recognition for it. And then he'll start to be motivated all of a sudden. Or find someone who needs help and then tell him, hey, it's on you to solve the problem. You're smart. Do it. Oh, you can't help him? Well, I guess you're stupid then. You see what I'm saying? And then, oh, no, I'm not stupid. I'm going to prove it to you. Okay, you go ahead and prove it to me that you're smart. And then they're really brilliant and they do amazing. You see what I'm saying? That's how you do it for an INTP. And yes, it is typical of INTPs who are allowed to be in their comfort zone in such an early age, especially among Gen Zers and millennials. Desoc Reglius D says, my mom is an ISFJ and my grandma is an ISFJ. My child mother is an ISFJ. I myself as an INTP. What is the connection? I think those people are mistyped. And there's probably not really a connection other than maybe that you guys have matching nurture and it's all forcing you to be in this traditional role. Sometimes the overarching part of life as we know it, the overarching zeitgeist of your area, United Arab Emirates or Saudi Arabia or those kinds of places, have huge social norms that they expect, right? So that could be a very problematic issue. Yeah, it can be an issue. Oh, there's a super chat for you.
For me?
Yeah, there is a super chat for you. Yeah, you want to...
Yeah, I drop phones, like, all the time. Dude, like, I got these screen protectors, right? And nobody's ever cracked them before. I cracked 2 within the space of a month. Like, it's...
A little bit louder.
I lose my phones all the time, but ever since I started buying my own phone, like the iPhone, like, I immediately stopped because that's really expensive, so no. But I lose a lot of stuff. Because unless it's constantly in my hand, I don't realize something is missing, and then it's lost forever. So I'm very forgetful with that stuff. Yeah, but cracked phones, that's me all the time. Like,
yeah. So, like, let's be straight. So I got my wife, Railgun, Jennifer Stone, this phone. And, well, interestingly enough, she's like, oh, no, I don't need protection. I don't need a screen protector. And I'm like, you know what? When you get this phone, you're going to drop it on the first day. And then she drops it on the first day, and the screen got cracked. Luckily, it's the protector, not the actual screen. So, like, any hero, yeah. Bottom line is, Jen Stone, to answer your question, yes, the ESTP can be messy and unaware of their environment, like drop phones, lose phones many times a year, drop classes, lose them, and they can be deep with their INFJ subconscious. INFJ subconscious is very wise, and I maintain my wife is the wisest woman I have ever met, if not the wisest person I've ever met. So, hashtag Railgun for you folks. Thank you for answering Jennifer Stone's question. And thank you for the super chat as well. Okay. Let's see here. Ash is Phoenix born. Thank you for the additional super chat. Specifically needs help putting himself out there for new social encounters. Not necessarily. All right, so I'm going to give a small piece of dating advice for INTPs. INTPs have a hard time getting a date, right? Wrong. INTPs do not have a hard time getting a date. Actually, in my personal experience, INTPs get the most girls all the time. Same thing for INTP women. They get the most guys. Like, it's insane. You just bring them to a bar and everyone is all over them. All the time. It's freaky. Why is that? Well, let me explain. Little piece of dating advice for INTPs. I have other pieces of dating advice, but this is kind of much lower in the rung. If you're an INTP and you want a date, here's what you do. You go to the bar. You take a book or your phone or your laptop or work with you, and you sit down at the bar by yourself. Do not speak to anyone. This counts for men and women, by the way, INTPs. Do not speak to anybody, except the bartender. Order yourself a nice drink. And because I know you're INTPs, why don't you get yourselves a nice Angry Orchard apple cider, right? Or maybe the rose version. Or, my personal favorite, the Blackbeard's Revenge. Blackbeard's Revenge is totally dope because it's root beer. Gotta love root beer. Butterscotch schnapps, a.k.a. buttershots. And spice rum. It's an excellent drink. I recommend it. So sit down at the bar with your work. Maybe you order some dinner. It could be your favorite bar. Or as an INTP, you could have probably like 6 bars planned out and whatnot. You go in, and you for 45 minutes to an hour, you do work. Maybe you order yourself some dinner, sip on a couple drinks, and you just focus on work, and you don't talk to anyone. Then the NTJs who are in the bar will see you, and they'll come up to you and introduce themselves to you and be like, hey, what are you doing? Or anyone, for that matter. The SPs will come up to you and be like, hey, what are you doing? And because they came up to you, because they're NI users, you automatically know that you got some good sexual compatibility with them because they're NI users, because they're the ones introducing themselves to you. INTPs, why do you think it's on you to introduce yourselves to people? It is not your job to initiate with people for relationships. And let me tell you, you stick out like a sore thumb if you're by yourself getting work done in a bar. It makes you attractive to those NTJ women, for example, or NTJ men. Because you stick out like a sore thumb because you're showing you're responsible and a person of high character while also being potentially brilliant, but also enjoying a drink and some fun. That's literally how it works. Now, I have other pieces of dating advice that are far more effective than that, but trust me, it goes a long way, right? So if you're an INTP, it's not your job to initiate relationships. It's your job to make yourself desirable. That's all. Self-care. Make yourself desirable. If you build it, they will come. Build yourself, they will come. Then you don't have to worry about being alone. Ashes Phoenix Born. Do not pressure your INTP brother for putting himself into social encounters. Social encounters need to come to him, not him to social encounters. Hopefully the answer, what I've just gave you with this little tiny piece of dating advice will be very useful to you, right? Awesome. You're most welcome, Ashes. Good deed for the day. Thank you, Austin. All right. Apparently a plethora of me says don't listen to me. Okay. Whatever. Go try it out. If you guys want more dating tips, go to csjoseph.life/coaching and get intimacy coaching, and we'll get you on Chase's dating plan, and we'll get you some successful situations. My other piece of advice, and I'm going to leave this here, dating apps are for losers. Don't do it. You won't get success. If you want success, hire me, and we'll help you get on the road to success for your relationships. So, a plethora of me was just kidding. My bad. Sometimes I take things in the chat like literally. LOL. Ashton Mayfield made a comment. Dating apps are horrible. Yes, they are. I'm going to be releasing potentially on Patreon in the future the dating tips series. So, and by the way, guys, just like don't forget, like once 4 seasons have been put up on Patreon, I'm going to start cycling some of the Patreon lectures out, or maybe we're not. We're not really sure what we're going to do with that, but it is becoming a thing. Also, if you guys decide to get a membership with us on our website, it's kind of identical to Patreon. Eventually, we're going to be phasing things in a different way. Not really sure. We got a lot of products that we're going to be releasing pretty soon to help people in their lives. So, very exciting stuff. I just wish I wasn't on bed rest for 2 weeks or for over a week. I literally had the flu for 10 days. Not fun. Luckily, my amazing wife nursed me the entire time, and funnily enough, you guys don't know this, but I got one of those giant steamers in this room right now. It's actually pretty cool, not gonna lie. And then she also discovered that cough syrup and I have an interesting relationship of. Yeah, I was out. Hey, beautiful.
Hi.
So yeah. Oh, and I think you're Is our wedding photo on Facebook?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but we're having like a lavish spectacle. That's what we call it, like an actual wedding ceremony with family and things. And we just ordered the wedding dress, and which is scheduled for next year. But even though we're technically already married on paper and whatnot, and had our little river ceremony, but that was pretty cool. So. LOL, NyQuil hangover. Is that a thing? Is that a thing? I don't know.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh, that is a thing.
Yeah, my dad goes to sleep immediately. Like he's an ENFJ. It's hard for him to get sleep, so I would see him drink NyQuil just to go to sleep, and I'm like, Dad, that's not good for you, but he would do it. It's a thing. Like NyQuil will put you to sleep.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Okay, cool. Oh, Draxel Ken asks, who do you think is more common to be SJW and believe that it does exist a heteropatriarchy? In my opinion, this is my opinion, the type that has more common to be an SJW is INFP. That's just my personal belief. Some cases, NTJ types can be social justice warriors until they get into a relationship with somebody who's the opposite of social justice warrior, and then they let go of it. Just throwing that out there. But it's usually like an INFP who's worried that their status is contingent on whether or not they're taking the position of social justice warrior. But it's usually NF types that are social justice warriors, with the INFP probably being the biggest culprit in all of them. So, all right. Excuse me. Oh, wow. I really missed being in front of the audience. I'm gonna... Let's see here if there's any questions. All right. Okay, here's a good question. I'm gonna share the screen here for this one. Okay. So Siobhan the NF asks, why do you say that in an INFJ ENTP relationship should one be sub-focused and the other shadow-focused? This is a great question. Thank you, Siobhan, for asking this question. So, Siobhan, the reason why is because when you have somebody who is subconscious focused, they're typically not as wise as somebody who is shadow focused, which could indicate a lack of maturity. And in a committed sexual relationship, it's important to have somebody who is more on the mature side and then another person who's more on the happy side. So the more mature person can discover the happiness through the subconscious person, and the subconscious focused person can experience more wisdom and maturity through the shadow focused person. And that makes for a great relationship, and that's how they're able to build each other up and whatnot and go in that direction. Something I recommend it. So yeah. Thank you, Siobhan, for your question. JK asks, can you dedicate a video talking about yourself, C.S. Joseph, your story? I think you have earned it. If you're comfortable with it, that is. You've mentioned some information here and there, but it would be nice to hear it in some sort of timeline with a bit more detail. It sounds exciting. JK, yes, I'll be doing that, and it will be provided on my Facebook profile. If you want to get on my Facebook profile, I'll put that in the stream chat right now, and that is facebook.com/chase.simoni, which is like my actual last name. And add me as friends on Facebook. If you guys have like a profile that looks fake, I will not accept your request. I'll just delete your request. If people like try to sell me stuff or like, bother me with dumb things or try to get me to like go to like some cam whore's website, I'm going to block you. I've blocked like over 200 people already since like coming back to Facebook, and I went from 200 friends to 3,000 friends, and the maximum amount of friends you can have is 5,000. So if you want to be like Facebook friends with me and like get access to specific content that's going to be released on just my Facebook profile, I suggest you get involved with that. So giving you guys a heads up on that. If you want to get on Facebook friends, you might want to check that out. So add me to friends, please. All right. Dating advice for ENTP females. Why are super ego relationships bad? I'm about to get married to ESFP. You are married to one. Advice, help, please. Jinx, how do you know that they're an ESFP? Did you verify them on the type grid? I'm not saying that ENTPs are bad to ESFPs, although it can be a problem. Just don't take away the ESFP's choice and make sure that you criticize them and whatnot. But the thing is, too, like, if they really, really feel bad about something, let them know. But the thing is that sometimes they just don't really know how to tell you the truth about how they're feeling, and they can't do that. So you have to have this insanely high amount of patience with the ESFP. And sometimes they whisper in your ear that things that aren't really true about other people. So don't always take the ESFP at their word. Respect what they're saying, but don't always take them at their word. Verify all of their beliefs for them, and respect your, if you're getting married to a man, respect your husband. More information in season 4. So Jenks, I recommend you watch season 4. So go to YouTube, the YouTube channel for C.S. Joseph. Go to season 4, which is How Do Intimate Relationships Actually Work? And then check that out, and we'll get that figured out there, because how do intimate relationships actually work? If you want to learn more about the mature masculine and the mature feminine, I recommend you check out the season 13 playlist on the YouTube channel as well. And I think that should answer your question for the most part. So, okay. Lane Stolly asks, this is a great question. Should someone wait to find someone in their top 3 most compatible types to be in a relationship with, or is that just a waste of time? Gold, silver, and bronze relationships are amazing, but I also recommend pedagogue relationships as well. So do a pedagogue relationships or your gold, silver, bronze, and those would be the best relationships I would recommend anyone seek for romantic compatibility. I would say your golden pair is the highest, followed by your silver pair, followed by your pedagogue, followed by your bronze pair, or pedagogue in some cases could be tied with second place. It's really subjective. There's a lot of freedom there. It depends on your nurture. You'd have to measure your nurture appropriately, and I do have a test coming out where people can measure their nurture to see where they are at their nurture level, as much as we're going to have a personality test as well, which is being worked on, I promise. We finished it. We have the logic. It's there. It's built. We just have to I just have to film the videos for it and release it. That's all. And it would have been out, but I've been taking a class and being on bed rest at the same time, and it's just absolutely insane. So it's kind of okay. So Shady Nix, how do you type someone if you don't know which side of the mind they're in? With just patience, you just wait extra time basically, and you get them comfortable. It's nice to see them in their element from a third-person point of view, Mr. Shady Nix. So we'll get that done there too, and we'll get that deleted as well, and then we'll get this deleted as well. Okay. How can an INFJ be original with his work when they're monkey see, monkey do? I'll ask J.K. Rowling about that. Basically, they can be original with work if they Christian, I don't know that enough about dimensionality, about socionics, or I may know about it. I just don't remember the label. We'll talk more about that later, bro, in a private conversation. So yeah, with originality of work, it just has to mean something to somebody, and then they can be original. It's not about necessarily for themselves. They're doing the work for someone else, like helping somebody or some ideal of some kind. So Mr. Phasix, that's how I would recommend answering your question. Okay. So, all right, Mady Bukandora says, my INTJ friend has a crush, but she will get married. He keeps saying she is my goal. I need to have her. Any idea to help him get over her or something, please? He kills me with her. Lol, she's INTJ. By the way, I don't understand your question, sir. So Spooky ghost pedagogue relationships are the type that's like not your golden pair, but still has highest sexual compatibility with you. That's your pedagogue relationship. And what type do I think Thanos is? Ends justify the means. He's probably like an INTP or an ENTP. I'd say probably INTP the most, or an ISFJ. One of the two. I knew Ahsoka. Can an INTP be a psychologist, and which path? Sure, they can be a psychologist if they want. No, I wouldn't recommend that. INTPs don't benefit from formal education. INTJs do, but INTPs don't. So I don't really know how to answer that question more than that. So, Zekistential asks, how does an autodidact work for TI users? Like how INFJs can take in lots of information despite having TE Trickster? By reading and being committed to being the best. They just want to be the best, and they know they can be the best. So it's kind of like SE inferior competition and outperforming and having that performance anxiety leading to a higher level of performance. It's just trying to be the best. Like literally Ash Ketchum, bro. You gotta catch them all. That's all there is to it. You know? So like, be a smart dude, choose a Charmander, and get it done. Alright, so let's see here. Other questions. Let's see here. Bordis Van Droof, is it common for INFJs with an INFJ parent to be stuck with their ENFP shadow? Yes, it is. That is very common. It's because the adult takes on the position of the ego within the family, and the child has to basically fend for themselves and go to the other side of the mind when around that adult. So the answer to that question is yes. Alright, so can ENTPs be good at team sports like basketball? They can, but in certain situations. I mean, they're really good at defensive end or tight end for football, for example. Point guard for basketball, etc. Anything that has like a defense-related posture. Some cases, a goalie. But I'd rather probably have an INFJ as a goalie, let's be honest. What advice would you give to INFP fictional writers? Focus on world building first. Use your expert intuition and reach out with your minds and try to get like every single detail written down and how your world works. Construct your world first before introducing characters. Create an entire history. Kind of like the Silmarillion is to the Lord of the Rings, right? Same type of effect. Alright, so which career decision is better for an ISTP? Switch to become an electrician or stick with current job in IT where you stare at the screen most of the day? I honestly can't really give you that much advice because ISTPs do great as an electrician or ISTP. I do know, though, that blue-collar jobs, as time goes on, are far more valuable than white-collar jobs because white-collar jobs will eventually be automated, and blue-collar jobs are the future. Blue-collar jobs eventually will become the most paid out there than white-collar jobs. So, Draxel Ken asks, do you think there can be an INFP or an INTP who doesn't like to read? Yes, absolutely. They're lazy. The lazy ones. Which demon function is Naruto's nine-tailed demon fox? That's more of a super ego, not necessarily an individual function. How to convince an ESFP to break up when in a toxic relationship? You abandon them and leave them and move on. Stop being codependent. Read Codependent No More by Melody Beattie and Attached. Read both those books immediately, and you won't have that problem anymore. Have self-respect. 4 pillars of self-intimacy. Have personal boundaries. Get out of that relationship if it's toxic. Like, I don't understand why, like, ENTPs have this consistent problem of being unable to break up with somebody because they're guilty. How about, like, having self-respect and realizing that you're uncomfortable, so just move on, you know? What advice would you give to an INTJ male who's obsessed with INTJ female? They're likely mistyped, or someone is. If they are mistyped, chances are one of them's an ENTP, and then I'd say go for that relationship. Otherwise, move on and run for the hills, if that's not the case. How can an INTJ and ESTP get along? The INTJ goes to the ESTP asking for help and gives the ESTP the room, and the INTJ never puts their choice above the ESTP, and the ESTP never puts their performance above the INTJ, basically, and is careful not to correct the INTJ all the time. That's what I would say. All right, Ken773 says, how does a ENTP most effectively stick to a schedule, and why is it hard to stick to one? It's because ENTPs are like water. We flow in all directions. We're starter types. We have a hard time finishing things, right? It's all about movement, right? And yes, it's hard for us to stick to a schedule, but if we get to a schedule, we end up getting super depressed and we don't get actually anything done. We have to boil the ocean, so allow us to boil the ocean. It's the only way we can be effective, basically, as ENTPs. So what you need to do to get things done, you start a bunch of things, you create a process or a system or a spreadsheet or a standard operating procedure about everything that you've done, and then once you're able to do it yourself and you've mastered it yourself and you have every little task handled, you delegate it to somebody else. That way you know exactly everything that they're doing, and then you feel comfortable enough with them and trusting them to do it for you, and then when they're not around, you can still do it for them. It's the same thing, right? It's not hard. You can get it figured out. And otherwise, follow Benjamin Franklin's recommendations. So yeah. All right. Kat Nani just got banned for spamming. Thank you. Don't spam. Don't spam at all. Okay. In what cases, Dr. Perfect asks, in what cases might an INTJ find it hard to finish a project or a job? If it's one they don't care about, if it's one they're not going to get credit for, it's usually because they're not going to get any credit for it and someone else is going to get all the credit, so why should they bother doing it for themselves? You know? An INTJ does something because they want to boast about it later. So if you're taking away their ability to brag after it's over, then they're not going to be interested in doing it. So, yeah. Okay. Eiko Chan says, how to get ESFJ to get their life together and figure out what they want. You tell them what they want, or you tell them what you want. That's how you do that, like straight up. It's not about what they want. Master Exploder L14 asks, how often would you personally say someone should enjoy art like music? I think everybody should, and everyone has their own taste, so yeah, do it all the time. Get a Spotify thing. It's pretty important. Okay, so Rocka something in rock and roll McMac, I think, is asking, I also have a question. When will the sources for the channel server be updated with sources that list the actual source books? It's already there at blog.csjoseph.life. Just go to learn and click books and you can check that out. But eventually that'll be migrated over to our new website and we'll have all those books listed there. We are working on it, and we'll make that available in the very near future. It's just been difficult to get that handled. So we are working on that. So please be patient. It'll probably be at csjoseph.life/books in the near future. In fact, I'm actually going to put that in my chat here. There we go. Okay, awesome. And I'm going to delete that there. Well, okay, putting it all out there asks, what are your thoughts on visual typing? Do you feel it has some validity? Do you think the shadow types could affect it in some way? I am a supporter and proponent of visual typing. It does work. However, the visual typing that people have laid out, the systems that people have laid out on the internet, are inaccurate. There is a system to it, but it's just not accurate. So the visual typers, the best visual typer I've ever seen out there is the ESTP, my former mentor, Mr. Robert Bryant. And then also there was someone else recently that had that capability as well. Excuse me. So, all right, let's get this back down here. Okay, cool. And let's check for drop frames. No drop frames. Awesome. We're doing fantastic. Good jobs for INTPs. Whatever is helping somebody, but IT is amazing for INTPs. Okay. Jay Patel asks, how to make an ENFP INFJ relationship successful? You said golden pair relationships can be explosive, so how does one control that? Well, the answer to that question is in season 14, episode 8. You could find season 14, episode 8 at csjoseph.live/Patreon. I'll put that in the chat here. For your question. It's an excellent lecture. I highly recommend it, good sir, Mr. J. Patel. Tracking eye movements is not accurate for visual typing. When people say eye movements, I kind of just chuckle to myself. Rock and Roll Micmac says, I didn't see Psychological Types listed as a book as I was told it was the source for Jung's original 8 types, but not much mention of it. Energies and Patterns of Psychological Types by Dr. John Beebe. Yes, check out that book, Rock and Roll Micmac. It's very important. Cocoa Bean, is there one type that's more prone to be narcissistic than others? Maybe based on the opinions of other people. People have the opinion that certain types are more narcissistic than others. They would claim that ENTPs and INTJs are probably the most narcissistic. But in reality, situation, any type can be narcissistic, Mr. Cocoa Bean. So we'll handle that there. Mario Nato asks, why are INTJs better social engineers than INTPs? Because they could take advantage of systems. Whereas INTPs take advantage of social areas, and TE parent is stronger than FE inferior in that area, so that's why. Elizabeth Flanagan asks, how can an INFJ being a counselor protect themselves from absorbing their clients' negative emotions being as an empath? That's a great question. Wow, that's a really good question. Basically, take a shower immediately following the session. No, just kidding. Recognize, you probably want to have a safe person, maybe like, I don't know, your husband or someone who with high moral fiber that you can actually talk about your client with to kind of give you that additional emotional support and get it off your chest so that they can utilize their moral principles to get you back on track. But otherwise, that should subside with that person being away from you to begin with. So, yeah. Uncrowned King asks, is it the ISTP's fault for not wanting to deal with others' emotional problems? No, it's not. It's not their problem, nor is it their business. And after that, turning on flight mode, well, I mean, is it the ISTP's responsibility or is it not? If it's not their responsibility, they're going to take off. But sometimes the ISTP, it is their responsibility because it could be like their children or their wife or their spouse or whatever, and then it would be a problem. So just be aware of that. Chase, have you ever heard about the 4 temperament, choleric, sanguine, melancholy, and phlegmatic, and how would you compare to the type grid? It's basically the same as the 4 temperaments that already exists, and that comes from Plato's Republic. The temperament system that I'm using comes from Plato. It doesn't come from Keirsey, popular to or contrary to popular belief. John Fury asks, how would an INFP and ISFJ relationship look like, worth pursuing, assuming both are typed correctly? No, I would not pursue that relationship at all. That's like having two bottoms in a relationship with no tops. Not recommended. So, no. Okay. Okay. Yeah, you're welcome, Cocoa Bean. You're good. Well, yes, rock and roll, Micmac. My position on Jung is, as while he is the father of analytical psychology, I maintain that Jung's theories are basically outdated. They're outdated. So look at it this way. I actually got into an argument about this with somebody on Facebook recently. So you look at let's compare Einstein to Carl Jung, right? Let's compare to Einstein and Carl Jung. Einstein's famous formula is energy equals mass times velocity squared, right? But that formula was proven to be inaccurate, and a new, more accurate version of that formula has been developed since then, right? It's basically because his work has been updated, right? So while psychological types by Carl Jung would definitely be an excellent source to provide, and sure, I'll make that available on my website when the time comes. The point is that Jung started the process, but he just started the process. He's not completely accurate. His theories need some serious updating. He's not the end-all, be-all resource on this. Not at all. And not even Jung himself would actually maintain that either. So, we have to, stop treating him as some kind of scientific giant that it's his word compared to no one's else, and we have to take Jung and what he says only. That's like saying that, because previous scientific authorities maintain that the world was flat, that we have to go with their opinion instead of, actually verifying it for ourselves. So Jung's definitions and Jung's approach is not entirely accurate, in as much as Einstein's original formula of energy was not entirely accurate, right? So now people like me are out there updating his theory and moving forward with it since then. So just be aware of that. Just because you're the original source does not mean you're going to be the top dog forever. It's just kind of how it works, right? Welcome to ideas, building upon each other. So, all right. Okay. And I'm not saying my work is more credible. I mean, I got 11 years of work into my research and things that I've done, but we can't ignore Jung. And I'm not saying to ignore Jung, but don't use Jung as the de facto standard for the science. You can't. I mean, think about it. Could we use Freud, who came before Jung, and do we say that he's the de facto standard for the science? No. So many people reject Freud outright anyway. So, get over it, Anyway, let's move on. Okay. Jay Patel asks, will there ever be shifts in temperament populations? For example, will the SJ 40% statistic ever change, or has our species evolved to keep a certain population of each temperature for survival? It's a good theory, Jay Patel, but I don't know the answer to that question. I really don't know. I'm going to get our race, I'm going to get humanity to the point where we can actually answer that question over time, but I honestly have no idea. I really have no idea. So we'll see. Lucas Martinez asks, have you seen any Love Lou channel lately? She changed her channel to Love Who. In my opinion, she figured out she was ENFJ and got embarrassed through TI like the ENFJ doctor. She makes cameos now. I don't know what that means, Mr. Martinez. Are you saying that Love Lou has finally admitted that she's an ENFJ and admitted that I was correct after all this time and she wasn't an ESTP? Is that what you're saying? Because, like, I actually, like she had my phone number. We were talking on the phone, but I actually blocked her because I was unhappy with kind of some of the behavior relating to, you know, our conversations. I got to a point where I couldn't exactly trust what she was saying. And it's not that I necessarily blame her for that. She's being loyal to one of her very close friends, and I don't have an issue with that. I have no issue with that at all. I mean, especially since her friend needs loyalty so much. So it's no big deal for me. But no, I haven't watched... Like, for some reason, everyone thinks I watch other people's YouTube channels. I don't. I don't watch Dave's Superpowers. I don't watch Love Lou. I don't watch Talking with Famous People. I don't care. I don't watch it. I'm too busy doing my own work. I don't have time. I really don't have time to watch anyone else's anything. I'm busy. I got work to do. So, okay. Hopefully that answers your question, Lucas Martinez, unless you have something else you want to add. Oh, you're saying yes a lot. Okay. Well, thank you, Love Lou, for finally admitting you're an ENFJ. I really appreciate that. Would be nice if you made a video that said C.S. Joseph was actually right. That'd be cool. You know, maybe we could be friends again. I don't know. All right. So, when would an INFJ be into spirituality and astrology type subject? Probably like all the time, Jamie sees, like literally all the time. How do ENTPs produce art if they are SI users and need to perform well? Reese, they can. Okay, Tina, I'll get to your question here in a second. Don't worry, I'll get to your question. But they can produce art, and it's usually in the form of music or poetry, because they have a way of words, you know. So, and every now and then you can get a good painter in there, but it's usually from like the ISFJ side and some really, really well developed ENTPs can use their ESFP angelic side for it, but it's very rare. It happens, but it's very rare. Tina Protsenko, I meant how to get an ESFP to leave a toxic relationship that I'm not a part of. Like, what advice to give? Tell them how their reputation is going to get destroyed by staying in that relationship. Tell them how their freedom of choice is being removed. And show this ESFP better options, better choices that they could make, better men or women that are available to them. Because they usually need better alternatives before they make a decision. So Rock and Roll Micmac asks, are you able to provide a release publicly of your research for us to observe what it looked like? While looking at some articles in my friend's college library, the Psychology Journal articles had a listing of peer-reviewed, meaning that there were other people who validated and wanted to see if the research was so well so I could start sourcing in papers. The answer is yes. I will be making my research available. Yes. The answer is yes. And it's going to be starting with making the results of our personality test available to the public and the statistics that we're able to draw from that. So the answer to that question is yes, just not yet. Just give me some time. And it's funny because the University of Melbourne has my type grid and utilizes it, in some cases, which I found shocking to me. So I thought that was really weird. But yeah. Also, Rock and Roll Micmac, your name triggers me, so I need you to change it, because if not, then I'm going to change it for you, and I'm going to do it very publicly here on the YouTube stream. So, and I wonder what funny name I could change it to. So, yeah. Otherwise, if you want to, also, like, peer review, I don't really... Like, peer review is important, but the problem is that, like, good luck trying to reproduce experiments. It's super hard to reproduce experiments these days. It's kind of, like, really lame. But we will be releasing data very soon based on the people that we've sourced so far. Okay. All right. All right. Cool. So. Can a golden pair also be huge enemies? You typed Mariah as an ESTJ and Eminem as ISTP, and they hate each other. Absolutely. You could be the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. Kind of like, imagine if you have a golden pair between a parent and a child. They know exactly where to hit that child real hard where it hurts. And that could be a serious issue. So golden pairs can be amazing for love and relationships, but they can also be extremely malicious in some cases. And they can hurt each other in ways that no one else can. So be aware of that. This is one of the reasons why the bronze pair is the highest, most common marriage of all the types. So, all right. I have never watched NT support a plethora of me. Do you type people subconsciously when talking to them IRL? Yes, I guess I could say that. I think it's more conscious, though. I don't watch Host Eric at all, Sten. I could care less. Like, funnily enough. In fact, let me read a conversation from someone I had earlier today. I had some guy by the name of Ronnie Ronnie something contact me earlier, and then he goes like this: I think you've mistyped yourself and grossly misunderstood the functions as a result. And I'm like, okay, lay it on me. Please share with me your understanding of the functions. And he's like, well, that's a bit too much to type out on my phone. I'm sure you've heard of talking with famous people, right? Eric's understanding of functions and their mechanics are probably the closest to my understanding of the functions and their mechanics. My response: I'm sure he would be happy to hear that. Would be nice if he wrote out his definitions and shared them. And then he says, maybe that is actually where you are superior. Your presentation is great. That's why you're so popular. Very organized. And I'm like, yeah, but I pay other people to organize things for me. He's like, well, maybe now you do. And I'm like, well, I have a question. Does being as organized I am, does that mean I have a TE? Does that mean I am a TE hero or a TE parent? What does that mean? I started asking him. Hashtag Socratic method. And he's like, I think you're very business-minded first and foremost, and that's where your TE shows the most. High SI is the source of your organization, I suspect. He couldn't be more wrong, but whatever. SI also explains the constant citations. My question to him in response to that is, are you saying TI users can't be business-minded? Are you saying SE users can't cite sources? And he's like, I don't know why you think those things are opposites. And no. Frankly, you're pretty much a textbook ESTJ, in my opinion. All of these qualities can be displayed by any type, but you embody them consistently. Why is it, my question is then, so why is it Eric thought I was an ENTJ before an ESTJ? And then he says, probably because he hasn't done enough homework on you. I have done homework on you. Actually, your videos are the first ones I binged on after discovering MBTI. I'll give you this. You are not as harmful to the collective understanding of type as Dave Powers. He has subtyped it into meaninglessness. So my response is, okay, so tell me, how has Eric done enough homework this time? Or are you his main source of ESTJ thinking? And then this guy says, Ronnie goes, I'm not sure what he thinks you are at this point. I haven't heard him reference your type in a while. My response: if that is the case, then why say, I'm sure you've heard of talking with famous people, right? Eric's understanding of functions and their mechanics are probably the closest to my understanding, because he contradicted himself. It's like, okay, so are you like... So Eric first said he's an ENTJ, and then he said I'm an ESTJ, and you say you agree with Eric and saying that his definitions of the functions are matching yours and closely matching yours, but you're also saying he's an ESTJ. That's a contradiction. It's not consistent. He goes on, because that's true and has nothing to do with what type we individually think you are. I'm like, okay, look, bro. He's like, this is all based on evidence we've gathered on you independently. And my question is then, if his understanding is close to yours, but you're unsure of what he thinks in terms of what my type is, how does that even make sense? So if you're like, it doesn't. It makes no sense. I'm like, how is this even consistent? Therefore, how can you borrow his credibility at all? So this guy then says, understanding of functions in capitals, not your type. And then I said, but understanding a function is indicative of one's type. How are they different? Are you arguing that they are mutually exclusive now? He says, I'm not saying our opinions of you differ because of differences in function understanding. I'm saying that he and I have different levels of insight into you, specifically. Okay. How is that different from functions or my type? Also, you said at the beginning of this conversation that your insights between the two of you were the same. That's another contradiction. He's like, I said it was the closest. Don't be dishonest, please. It's a waste of time. I'm like, I'm not being dishonest at all. I prefer you do not gaslight me. You're either close or not close in thinking between the two of you. Which is it? He's like, close, LOL, but not the same. And then he's like, you should debate host Eric of Talking with Famous People. It would get plenty of views, smiley face. My response, I don't give a shit about views. LOL, okay, he says. So if you're, I go on. So if you're close to him, then you agree with him on my type and not on functions. Does he think you're ESTJ? Well, he thought I was an ENTJ before, but then changed it. Did you think I was an ENTJ before too? And he's like, no, I see no NI in you. Then how are you and him close in thinking then? And he's like I said, he didn't do proper homework on you before. And I'm like, well, that's another stark difference between you and Eric. I don't see how you are close in thinking with him at all. You know, and then he goes on and he says, I find it hard to disagree with him on his function descriptions for the most part and mechanics of how they work in each type overall. However, we do have small differences in how small details work mechanically. I respond with, so you're saying that knowing one's functions has nothing to do with one's type? And he's like, you are so clearly NI-polar, LOL. And I'm like, answer my question, bro. You need everything explained in exact detail. Rephrase your question, he says. No need. It is a yes or no question. I don't know what you're asking exactly, he says. So I ask the question again. So you agree with him on his descriptions of functions, but you do not agree with him that he thought I was an ENTJ? He's like, correct. But please understand that he was wrong about your type because he had very limited info on you when he said ENTJ. Not because he is wrong about typology, this person says. My question is, how is it credible of Eric of Talking with Famous People to make videos about me with such little information then? He's like, I didn't say it was. My response, then why is it in my best interest to debate someone who is not credible? He's like, well, I'm not advocating for his channel, but his understanding of typology is sound as far as I can tell. And I'm like, and then he's like, to better understand typology, I believe that to be your biggest hurdle to actually understanding typology correctly. Your focus on effectiveness over accuracy. Great for your channel, terrible for truth. That's what this guy says. My response, but you said you disagreed with him saying I was an ENTJ. That proves that you do not believe that, and that you feel your handle on typology is superior to that of host Eric's. He's like, I thought we were past this, LOL. Well, in order for something to be true, it needs to be consistent, and based on this conversation, neither you or Eric is consistent. So out of the three of us, I am the only one closer to the truth, because I have been more consistent. Well, you're just SI valuing. And I'm like, at this point, he's like, at this point, I think it's just convenient for you to act like you don't understand my many explanations on why our typing of you is different. My response, which explanations? Because he didn't actually explain anything in this conversation. You know, and he's like, nobody had NI that bad. is what he says. He's like, well, you're correct there, but please understand that he was wrong about your type because he had very limited info on you when he said ENTJ, not because he was wrong about typology. He basically repeats himself here. And then I said, then why do you think he is so good at typology like yourself when he was wrong at first and went on public record saying so? How can anyone trust what he says when he lacks this kind of integrity? Or are you saying you lack integrity also? This is what I asked Ronnie in response. He's like, because we can NI through all of his NE, and you can't understand that because you are NI blind. And I'm like, dude, stop avoiding my questions. He's like, ask better questions. I'm tired of blowing straw men down. My response is the following. That's probably because they aren't made of straw, dude. Interesting conversation from earlier today on Facebook. Funny how that works. I definitely enjoy these interesting conversations. So yeah, I mean, if you're gonna have a conversation with me, you might want to consider you might want to consider that you know what you're talking about first, please. I mean, teach me something that I don't know. Correct a wise man and he will love you. Correct a fool and he will hate you. I won't hate you, just so you know. In comments, 3 messages from Mr. AJ. I have no idea where your questions are, sir. Let's find out where his questions are. Okay, let's see. Trying to find AJ's questions. Oh. Let's see. Okay, I found him. Okay. What do you think of it? A lesser-known branch of Socionics teaches that the way you protect your child determines how useful you are to society and how it is easy to help you with problems with your life. I agree with that, actually, because that's indicative of a well-developed parent function. I do agree with Socionics on that, Mr. AJ. He says, active protection or passive. FE active, mastering human relationships, learning how to resolve conflicts. FE passive, everyone hates me, I'm an outcast, and I'm proud of it. Yeah, there is actually some truth to that, I would say, from a Socionics point of view. So thank you for bringing this to the table here, or bringing this to the front. But based on that, I would say, Bath Boss, what bank did you rob? Dude, that's like $15, okay. And AJ Active says, FI Active, being able to find something good everywhere. FI Passive, a grumpy critic that hates everything and himself. The thing is, it's all about cognitive axes. Cognitive axis. Watch season 1 where I talk about cognitive axis. I think I also talk about cognitive axis in season 5 in cognitive synchronicity. The cognitive functions are on an axis, and what affects one function affects the other on the axis. If you develop one function, the other one naturally develops. But it's an active and passive development from the axis point of view. So I would say Socionics is absolutely correct in this area, but what Socionics lacks is cognitive orbit, which we're going to talk about more heavily in season 18 in the very near future. Rock and Roll Micmac says, are you able to release your 11 years up until now? The test might only give answers that are mixed in with a lot of individual mixtures of nurture formed from specific different situations. We're posting this since I know some people are wondering, not trying to spam. It's all good, bro. I will be releasing information probably within the last 3 years, quite frankly, because the first 6 years of my research basically was grossly inaccurate, and I'll admit it. It was horrible. But I did learn some lessons and failures from there to be able to get something more accurate. Commit unalive. Nice sneaky... nice sneaky question there, sir. Right as my eyes changed. And Cocoa Bean's interesting question. Gosh, I'm starting to get sick. I mean, the night is happening, so it's kind of... Okay. Say again? No, I'll fall asleep instantly. Actually, I do want that water though.
Okay.
You can have me that water. That'd be fantastic.
Some tea.
Yes, please. Thank you, Beauty. I love my wife. She is exquisite. She's one of those super mega wise, respectful women, and I've made her my queen, and I will elevate her above all the rest in my life. I love her dearly, and you know, it's nice to be in a relationship with somebody who's not focused on being the ultimate catch, but instead is focused on being the ultimate human being and constantly seeking, putting herself in a state of continuous improvement. And yes, she's an ESTP, and while at times our relationship can be very challenging given the latent incompatibilities we have, it makes us both into better people, which creates a higher level of benefits with our relationship. Which just goes to show folks that if you understand this science pretty well, you can literally have any relationship you want, provided both people within the relationship have this level of understanding, because you're able to talk your way out of any potential emotional problems that you may encounter. So I'm very thankful for Railgun. She's a fantastic woman, and very blessed to have her in my life. All right. What age can you start recognizing a child's type? When does it become obvious? My son being a Templar type, I knew he was a Templar type like the first day I brought him home. Like I knew it was Quadra. But in terms of going beyond that, I had a really hard time figuring that out. Honestly, it wasn't until he was about 4 years old that I started to realize that he was an INFJ, honestly. So that's just my personal experience. I'm sure other people's experiences would change as a result of that. Okay. So. Oh, gosh. Falling apart here, people. All right. All right. I'll answer Parzy's question. Long question. Guys, I hate really long questions like this, but I'll indulge Parzy. Long question. But a thing I noticed with being around so many INFPs, myself included, and other idealist types and in idealist temperament communities, a lot of people with the idealist temperament have had difficult lives and upbringings. Well, of course, because you guys are a psychological minority. I'm wondering if the idealist temperament manifests and increases in numbers when a society is struggling, is unhealthy, and if it's just a natural collective unconscious check and balance thing of our society, the idea where more idealists are created in troubling times is necessary. Parzy, this is an excellent question. I love this question. Honestly, I don't know. But I actually agree with your theory. I think that might actually happen. I think sometimes the temperaments may go up and down based on the changing times. I can't prove it, but I suspect that may be the case, metaphysically speaking. So thank you for asking that question. That's an excellent question. I haven't observed anything, but I suspect that may actually be happening as the collective unconscious is correcting itself to keep our race moving forward. Probably one of the reasons why we have weapons of mass destruction, but our race decides not to kill each other because of the collective unconscious adjusting itself. It's kind of like how also, I think this was proven statistically, when you have a homosexual male in your family, the sisters of the homosexual male will statistically produce more children, thereby offsetting the presence of homosexuality within a family unit. Which means with that pre-built in within with that being pre-built, within the collective psyche of the human race, it just kind of seems like that's some more additional psychological evidence to suggest that homosexuality is not actually an evil thing, whereas many religious circles maintain that is the case. I don't really speak out against homosexuality because I actually maintain that a lot of religious groups are fundamentally incorrect about that, even though a lot of people, especially folks who are Christian or Muslim or whatnot criticize me heavily on that, but I mean, it is what it is, Just like also my position on abortion. No one likes my position on abortion either, but I'll share it. I'm a pro-lifer. I prefer children to not be aborted. That would be my preference. However, we live in this thing called reality, and it's not like I can have Roe v. Wade repealed or something, but I would like to suggest a change. I maintain this. If women have the right to choose, which they certainly do in our society, then men should also have the right to choose. And what I mean by men having the right to choose is that if women have the right to abort, then men should be given the right to abandon. Think about how often women would choose to have sex less with random men and then end up putting themselves in positions of irresponsibility. I think that's the best position, or the fairest position on abortion we can have. So there you have it. If women get the right to choose, then men get the right to abandon. I think that's how abortion should be handled moving forward. If I'm not able to, because it's here's the thing. Like Dave Chappelle said, if you have a penis, then basically what right do you have to tell a woman what to do with her body? Okay, fair point. But then he's like, if that's the case, if women have the right to choose to abort, then men definitely get the right to abandon. And I'm like, wow, why don't we put that in public policy? And I think that would definitely make things much more fair. So, gotta love that TI pragmatism, right? Okay, Savaterix asks, C.S. Joseph, it freaks me out when I see patterns with MBTI types. MBTI types that constantly overlap, and I notice that 3 ESTJs all talk and act the same. It's weird. I keep re-verifying my tests. Is this NI or NE? It's probably extroverted sensing, actually, Savaterix, seeing those physical related patterns and whatnot. They talk all the same. I'd say that's SE. So, all right. Cool. Okay, and going back to the channel. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So, okay, so how can you tell, Mamu asks, how can you tell if an ENTP is serious, as they can debate all sides? You have to get them, Mamu, watch the Virtue and Vice of ENTPs lecture. It's season 7, episode 7. Watch that. It's in the playlist, season 7, episode 7. Within that episode, you should be able to get them on saying maybe or might be. You got to get the ENTP to commit. Provide deadlines. My wife does that to me all the time. Honestly, it's a really healthy thing. Because if things are left unspoken or uncommitted with, then ENTPs end up becoming irresponsible. And, they kind of need to be, have that level of accountability in terms of responsibility. So we'll get that handled up. Stellar Memer. Gosh, I love Stellar Memer. Love that guy. NT types. When your ideal utopia is ANCAP, I don't know what that means, but you would also create fascism had you actually been controlling the world. True that. Mastermind 47, as you said, integrated people are harder to type, but does that make them harder to social engineer as well? Yes, Mastermind 47, yes. Technically, yes, the answer to that question. Heather Bryant, yes, men already do abandon, but I'm saying it should be a society where men can abandon totally, such that they have no financial liability whatsoever. I think that would cause women to think twice about allowing themselves to be put in situations where they could be pregnant. So, and not just have sex on a whim, honestly, because they're always aware of that risk, which would cause them to choose their men more wisely. And puts a little bit more responsibility in the women to make things a little bit more fair between men and women. That's all. I'm just calling for fairness here. I'm not here to call out for morals or ethics per se, because I maintain it's unfair right now. So, okay. And if you disagree with me, you also disagree with like Dave Chappelle and some other people as well. So, and that's cool. It's fine if you disagree with me. It's a free country, right? Let's hope it stays that way. Daniel Karaoke, can ISFPs be alphas with their ENTJ subconscious? Yes, they absolutely can. I even had an ISFP shop manager who ran my assembly line at a firearms company I used to run. Good guy. Did an amazing job. Absolutely. So, do cognitive functions correlate to sexual kinks? Yeah, absolutely. Yes, they do. Tina Prosenko, that is absolutely true. Lucas Martinez, did CSJ see my super chat? Let's verify. Lucas Martinez says, love Lou. I was making a comparison to ENFJ doctor who went to E-Demon that they will need to relearn everything they learned. She's too embarrassed to make a video about admitting she's ENFJ. Well, the thing is, like, when it comes to embarrassment, folks, and I even said this, Mr. Martinez, I even said this about Frank James recently. Even Frank James, gosh, I'm falling apart here, guys, but I'm going to keep going. I'm going to try at least. Even Frank James has got to a point where, you know, like, if he were to admit that he's actually an INFP instead of an INFJ, his whole community would flock to him. You know what I'm saying? Because he's showing humility. It would be the same thing with Love Lou. If she were to admit that she's actually an ENFJ instead of an ESTP, her community would flock to her. Everyone would. It would only just cause people to like her more. It would be excellent, you know? So why not do that? You know, because here's the truth. Like, this is something everyone needs to learn, especially this audience. Let's be honest. But, like, if you live your life in humility, your fellow man will lift you up. They're not going to tear you down. They're not even going to claim that you're less credible. They're actually going to claim that you're more credible because you're showing humility, because you're willing to admit you're wrong. I'm willing to admit I'm wrong. I mistyped Drake in How to Type Sessions. He's not an ISTP, he's an ESTP, right? Or recently, some guy named Flores posted on my Instagram recently on the famous Friday picture of Tupac Shakur as an ENTP, which this community, like a lot of people in this community, freaked out over me typing Tupac Shakur as an ENTP. Mr. Flores did a lot of research on it and came to the conclusion that he was wrong. And he actually publicly criticized me for saying that Tupac Shakur is an ENTP. And then he publicly apologized on the Instagram for his position. And said, I'm sorry, but you're right. Tupac Shakur is an ENTP. Funny how that works. Funny how all the black ENTPs out there who get successful are ultimately murdered in some capacity or killed. Or suicided. Malcolm X, Tupac Shakur. Kind of weird how that works. Think about that, you know. All right. Elise asks, advice for INFJ and running a business. INFJ business, Elise, you need to read the book Lean Startup by Eric Ries. Anyone starting a business needs to read that book. Always put yourself in a program. Find yourself an ENFP or an NFP to help you, keep you organized and the like. And then just focus on the people. You will struggle with the systems, and make sure you verify all of your beliefs. I can't stress how important it is to get an STJ or an NFP in your life to help you out, Elise, for that. And then try not to do everything yourself. Actually trust other people to do things. Okay. And let's see. Where's Tina's super chat? Tina wants, please provide examples of cognitive functions and kinks. Well, it's not exactly entirely appropriate for this audience, Tina, but I guess when it comes to enjoying certain sex toys, just look at it from extroverted sensory to introverted sensory. Introverted sensors like to receive things sexually, whereas extroverted sensors like to give things sexually. The toucher versus the touchy, etc. So the kinks are manifest in that methodology through cognitive synchronicity, and that should be enough to answer your question. So, what type is Prince Andrew? I have no idea. Yeeterson asked that question. All right. Let's see here. Umut Isik Pakel Zarethius asks, do you remember Augustus Caesar from Discord? I said I would get typed, though you do type people under 18 years old. I don't type people under 18 years old unless I have written permission from parents to do so. It's part of our confidentiality agreement. And if anyone is underage without permission, we terminate the session and we provide a refund, or we get written permission. That's our policy. What is the difference between SE physics and NE metaphysical when it comes to doing art or engineering? It's basically a level of abstraction. Is it like this is art that's showing the same thing in a different way? Or is this is art showing something that's being improved upon? Or art that's more focused on, well, what if this situation happened, right? So an abstract form of art would be like historical fiction, right? That'd be a good metaphysical way of doing it, right? But a painting that takes a physical scene and it's recreated in the form of a painting to basically freeze the memory in time, that's extroverted sensing, right? The difference. Why do people type Kanye as ENFP? Davey asks. Well, it's because they're using the MBTI letter dichotomies. Watch season 15, episode 12 for the answer to that question, Davey. You could find that on this channel. Go to playlist, go to season 15, watch episode 12. That'll answer your question. Leash Narrows says, Umut, don't join the Discord if you're under 18. Problem with sexual predators. Yes, there is a problem with sexual predators. That's why no one is allowed to join our Discord if you're under 18. You will be kicked out. If you'll be found and you'll be banned. Okay. Can an ENFP-focused ISTJ procrastinate a lot and be disorganized? Of course they can, if they have the habit of being disorganized. If their SI heroes develop the habit of disorganization or being a hoarder, for example, and keeping everything dirty and not taking care of themselves due to a lack of self-respect because they're comfortable to do so, absolutely. So, okay. And Lubaba Maz, which I lost it. Oh. Advice on fitting in better and stop being the self-sacrificing white knight of justice. I think it's worse as an ENTP female because of cultural expectations. Just don't care what other people think about you. Watch season 17, episode 6. It talks about the beta quadra. And utilize your icy sword of truth. Recognize that people are not actually your friends, and you'll have very few friends as you live your life in truth. If you want to live your life as a lie, you'll have tons of friends, because as it is written in Thessalonians, in the last days, the people will choose for themselves teachers to teach them what their itching ears want to hear. An echo chamber, instead of listening to sound doctrine and throwing out all logic. I imagine this is the last days because that's what people are doing. They're just creating echo chambers for themselves instead of listening to sound doctrine. How can INTJs combat procrastination? By getting over their performance anxiety and then just getting it done. All right, rock and roll, Micmac. You've been asking the most advanced questions this evening, so I'll indulge you. What difference could be caused between people's cognitive function usage in relation to their individual values that they may develop from nurture? Similar to what Sigmund Freud's explanation of the superego and Carl Jung describes as a person's personal unconscious. I'm wondering this somewhat as well as combined with my question. All right. So when Jung describes a person's personal unconscious, that's basically one's introverted intuition in most cases. So it's not exactly in relation to their individual values. Sigmund Freud's explanation of the superego, okay, yeah, that's fair, but I disagree with Freud's definition of the superego. I maintain the superego is a superfluous ego, not necessarily Freud's definition of the superego. Nurture can be based on one's individual values, but someone can actually, let go of their nurture over time. Others cannot. I am making a lot of, I make a lot of biblical statements all the time because I was raised as a Christian. But do I go to church nowadays? Hell no. I don't care. So I'm very anti-church. I'm very, very anti-church. I don't want to have anything to do with church. I reject the church entirely because I find it a very, I find it a farce, quite frankly. All right. All right. All right. Deadworks asks, how can we start mastering the 50th law? Basically through trial and error. That's all. Just trial and error and recognizing that you're a lot stronger than you give yourself credit for. Take risks. Why not take risks? Remember, aim high. It's always better to aim high and fail than to aim low and succeed. Keep that in mind, folks. All right. Umut asks, I got typed by at least 30 people, same answers all along, yet I feel the need to constantly verify my type being INTJ, and I'll even get typed by you soon if you are, since you're authority, TI. I mean, sure, if you want to get typed by me, that's fine. csjoseph.life/coaching for that. Although I think type verification might be csjoseph.life/CS verify. Hopefully that page rule has been put into place. Logan asks, and how to social engineer ISTJ? You said people invest with their subconscious. Why would an ESTP want to invest? Doesn't INFJ want things safe? Not really. INFJ wants things to be correct and right, actually. INFJ wants things to be righteous. ESTPs, it's more of their ISTJ shadow that they're investing. But their subconscious has to be sold on the idea because you have to kind of sell them like, hey, you're going to be happier later than you are now if you invest, right? So that's how that works, Logan. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. How to persuade an ISTJ to change their habits. Tell them that they're going to be unwanted if they don't. I tell them that their reputation is going to be hurt if they don't. Just show them the consequences of their actions. That's it. Make them afraid. Mastermind 47 asks, what are the roles of the perceiving functions? It's basically to gather information from which your decision-making functions make decisions. Can you give an example of an NT society? Destino Coley asks, can you give an example of an NT society? Nazi Germany. Okay. Can NI aspirational be stronger than NI hero? Yes, it can. But for short stints. Okay. Which times respond worse to critique about your social skills? Probably FE inferiors, so ISTPs and INTPs, I would imagine. How to give good experiences as an ENTP. Self-discipline and practice, Tina Protenko. I don't know anything about Neuralink, Draxel Ken, so I don't know anything about that. How can an INFP develop their TI? Really, you just need to read. But more on that in season 19, episode 17. That'll have the answer to that question. Okay. Let's see. Handbook 08 asks, aside from FI Demon being unaware of how one feels, do they just live without feeling? Yes, basically. Because everything to them is all in true false. That's all that is. It's just true false, right? They care when they're caring about others. Okay. Yeah. Input, process, output, feedback for judging functions. What about the perceiving ones? So perception functions, it starts off with extrovert intuition is the first one, and then it's introverted intuition after that. And then it's extroverted sensing, which leads to introverted sensing, the past and experience. So basically, the greater future leads to my future, which leads to our now, which leads to my past, basically. So that's how I'd answer that question. Okay. So, rock and roll Micmac again. How does the superego from four sides differ from Sigmund Freud's definition of the death instinct and the death drive? The thing is, though, it kind of does, but it kind of doesn't. The reason why is because, you know, the four sides superego for four sides theory is mostly like, hey, you know, it could be insanely destructive, but it has a life instinct. It has a life drive, basically. So it also represents the capability of having the polar opposite of Sigmund Freud as well, Mr. Rock and Roll Micmac. So just be aware of that. Okay. A Mayfield 90. How can an ISFP strengthen their NI function? Basically, allowing yourself to want things regardless of what other people think of you. But that may be irresponsible. Understand that there may be unforeseen consequences to your actions that you could take for others, and you need to use your SE parent to try to rein in your NI child. Because, like, for example, ISFPs have, like, horrible spending habits, and they have, like, no concept, usually, like, all the time, of no concept of financial management, and just end up spending too much money as it is. It's really frustrating. So, something to be aware of. David Me. I like David Me. David Me is awesome. How can an ENFP best relate to his ISTP teenage daughter for her to grow up and well-adjusted? She is the only sensor in a family of intuitives. Give her choices. Don't take her choice away. Also, like, trust her. If you take away her choices, she's going to behave badly because she's just going to, you know, mirror. Here, you want to take that question? Take that question.
Dude, like, honestly, if you take away...
A little bit louder.
If you take away my choice, like, as an ESTP, I'm purposely going to make your life hell just to see which ways I can break you just for fun. But if you give me a choice, or if you give any ESTP a choice to, like, behave, like, any way they want, they're going to choose to behave in a good way because they don't want to be forced to be nice to someone. Like in customer service, I didn't like to be forced to be nice to someone, but when I was left alone, I was extremely nice to people. And it's just because it's more genuine to me. I don't feel as genuine. I feel super fake, so why even try to be nice if it's going to be fake?
Well said. Thank you for your comment on that. That was excellent for those of you who are STPs out there. All right. Okay, so Jinx says, last question. I feel people, men especially, are attracted to my ISFJ subconscious, and then horrified, terrified, burn when they then find my ENTP ego. LOL. How do I stop this misreading from others? Basically, Jinx, what you want to do is make sure you're not the one who's initiating with men. If you initiate with men, that's kind of a problem. You just need to make yourself observable and make yourself desirable. Focus on maximum desirability, but put yourself in places where you could be observed by other men over a consistent amount of time, such that at that point they end up realizing that you're comfortable around them, and because they see that you're comfortable around them, then they'll initiate with you. And because of that level of comfort, they won't mind your ENTP ego at that particular point in time. Please see my advice from earlier in this episode where I'm talking about INTP dating tips. You can extract a similar strategy from that and deploy it in everyday life. So, Mastermind 47, any advice on the SE inferior? Please go out of your way to be okay with failure. Fail, and extract as much wisdom from that failure as you can. You can't extract wisdom from success. Savatarix asks, how do you feel about neurotransmitters being correlational or causation linked between cognitive functions of the four sides of the mind, especially since ones do specific jobs? I really don't know enough about neurotransmitters to really answer that question, but I do know that cognitive functions do have an impact on how the mind wires itself. I'm going to have to defer to Dario Nardi on that and his work for now. So please check out Dario Nardi, Mr. Savatarix. Okay. I will not talk about Hitler's type. Sorry, everyone keeps asking me about Hitler's type. Not answering that question. Not interested. Not going to happen. So, it's all good. A lot of people just aren't aware of that. Not going to happen. All right. Let's move down there. Gosh, so many Hitler questions. All right. Does talking fast correlate to movement or informative type? Sometimes it can. It's usually movement, though. But it can be for informative. Informative plus movement, it's like super mega fast. There's different kinds of speeds. There's like 4 different speeds to speech if you think about it. Daniel Karaoke, what's the difference between NI hero and NI child? NI child just like wants things for the sake of wants things. It's like, ooh, I'm going to do this thing and see what happens. Yay! Whereas NI hero is like, I'm going to do this thing. I know what the consequences are going to be. NI hero has awareness of consequences. NI child does not always have awareness of consequences. So that's really the primary difference. Hioris B, I'm an INFJ with NFP parents and they don't understand how I behave or think. Any tips? Just criticize them. Nitpick everything with your TI child, but don't come off as an arrogant person. Get yourself to a point, Mr. Yordis, is it Yardis? Yordis? I hope I said that correctly. Yordis? It's like Jordy. Yordis. Just be respectful to your parents. Your parents still gave you, like they raised you, they birthed you, etc. So why not, So keep that in mind, but like at the same time, tell the truth. Okay. Okay, so. Okay. Elise asks, how would having ESFJ and ISFJ parent help INFJ? I mean, they'd get emotional support for their FI critic at a minimum, but then everyone would be competing with each other to have someone to listen to them at all times, which would really suck. So the TI child would end up getting stomped on consistently. I'd recommend the INFJ exit out that family sooner than later. So, okay. Okay. Existentialism. Thank you for joining us. If NI hero means that you follow a path of your own devices, does that mean NI will break out of whatever problem or trap it lands on in the path leading to the vision? Usually. Yeah. The answer to that question is yes. Although SI hero could also be a path of your own devices as well, but it's very past focused and based on one's duty, not necessarily willpower to get through anything. It's more of an outlast everything. Elise asks, how do you work out a dual relationship if you're both aspiring and subconscious focused? I mean, duality, it still is going to fail anyway, because at the end, people's egos, when they get ignored, it can be a problem, especially the inferior function, and it'll cause the superego to come out violently. It's not my recommendation. Davey asks, how do I deal with my ESTP dad who doesn't accept who I am or what I want to do with my life as an ENFP? Well, here's what you do. You start listening to the cognitive function transition of ESTP's lecture, and you turn it on at max volume with your dad in earshot, and you just watch it. And watch ESTP lectures on my YouTube channel at max volume around your father. And then you mock him afterwards. That's what I do. Use your ESTP SE demon to mirror his behavior. That's what I'd say. So, how can I motivate myself to study as an ENFJ? Well, if you don't study, then no one's going to listen to you. Aren't your ideas great? Well, you're going to have really terrible ideas, and no one's not going to ever want to listen to you as an ENFJ if you don't study. So, get new ideas. Read. Verify everything. So, okay, Deadworks asks, do you have any new recommendations for people that are reading Deep Nutrition and Perfect Health Diet, like new behaviors to take, etc.? Anything from your nurture vids I know about? Food Rules, released by Dr. Catherine Shanahan. Check that book out. And also Turn Up the Heat by Dr. Philip Golia, Goglia, the nutritionist for Marvel celebrities. Turn Up the Heat. I highly recommend that. Get a fasting lipid panel, and then identify your metabolic type, and then create your food approach based on your metabolic type, and you'll be more successful. I highly recommend that. Mr. Deadworks for that as well. So coming up on the end of the show here, guys. So ESTPs mistype themselves as INFJs because they might be INFJ focused through their side. How can an ESTP connect with an ISTJ more? By showing the ISTJ things. A great way to connect with an ISTJ is to meme them constantly. Get their Instagram account, find funny memes, and share with them memes and funny videos all the time. That's how you get to an ISTJ. And then troll them a little bit. See if they'll... Troll them a lot.
Just make fun of them all the time.
Make fun of them all the time.
And if they get mad, just obligate them.
Yeah, if they get mad, obligate them. Awesome.
That's like torture.
Okay. Alright, so Amut is like, please explain NI more than saying willpower. Introvert intuition exists to help people get through any obstacle. Either through it or around it. It is their singular path forward. It is one's own personal future. That's how I can get to point A to point B to point C. My own path forward. That's introvert intuition. What are the possibilities for me? What can I get out of a situation? That's introvert intuition, right? Where can I be in X amount of time, right? That's what it is. All right. Are INFJs good with money? Ashton Mayfield asks. Technically, hell no. Usually they're not. Usually no. Almost always no. Queen of Vegas asks, I'm an INTJ. What the hell is an NIFI loop? I see the term everywhere. No one's explained it to me enough for me to understand. An NIFI loop is when an INTJ is being irresponsible. And because of that, they're lacking their research, they're not verifying their beliefs, and believing incorrect things, and then forcing other people to think certain ways that are actually lies. It's when an INTJ believes their own lies, and then they become super impulsive and only make decisions based on their mood, not based on personal responsibility. That is an NIFI loop. Okay. What's the best way an ESTP feel connected with an INTP? Just make them comfortable, I guess. And talk through literally everything. Folk, yeah, advice on connecting with my ENTP husband, 3 years married and just had our first kid. Make him comfortable. Watch season 14, episode 9. Just so you guys know, season 14, which has all the golden pairs, which are the relationships related lectures, they're on gold tier of Patreon. It's like $25 a month. You can kind of treat it like, HBO. We have like a bunch of lectures there. You just pay like the monthly fee and you can just binge watch all of the content that we have there and you're good to go. If you want to learn more about that, you can actually see what content is available right now on Patreon. You just go to https://csjoseph.life/Patreon. You can check out what's available. But if you are an INFJ or an ENTP, you're in luck because season 14, episode 9, which is the relationship lecture for ENTP and INFJ, is actually available to the silver tier, which is $5 a month. You might want to check that out. It's really, really important because that's a pedagogue relationship lecture for ENTPs and INFJs to enjoy. I highly recommend that if you want to become Patreon subscribers. And you get like really cool like Discord roles and whatnot. So like, why wouldn't you do that? Like, come on, guys. We're actually like giving you a lot of content. So check it out. Yes, the wand is back. Thank you, Lazarus. Let's see here. I've seen my sister types being siblings, including me, INFJ, and my ENFJ sister. Is that connected somehow? Not necessarily. And ShadowBR121, can a minor enter the Discord server with parents' permission or Patreon? You cannot enter the Discord at all, even with written parental permission. We are not interested in that liability. You're just going to have to wait. So be advised on that. Stella Memer, let's see here. Logan asks, my INTP brother think that anything I do or learn is stupid. How do I fix this as an ESTP? By just being better at him at doing certain things. You'd always be better at mechanics than the INTP. You could be, potentially. I know some INTPs that are amazing at mechanics, so I mean they could probably beat you in that area. But you also don't have to compete with your INTP sibling anyway. I mean, just be your own person. Don't compare yourself to the INTP. Just move on. You don't have to always take the INTP with you. Why are you trying to get the attention of your INTP? Get attention from somebody else, So. All right. Okay. Jamie Nelson asks, is forgetting where you park, Essie? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I always forget when I go to Walmart. Yes, that's experted sensing. How would you recommend an INTP developing rapport with an ISFJ boss? Oh my gosh. Pretend to be someone you're not. Watch How to Social Engineer ISFJs in season 21. The playlist is here on the YouTube channel. This is the Elder Wand carried by the ENTP Gellert Grindelwald. So... it's not necessarily dead works. It's not necessarily that INTJs want to be in that loop. It's just because their TE function is underdeveloped. More about that in season 19, also available on Patreon. Guys, season 14 and 19 are on Patreon, but season 18 will be made publicly available. Just keep that in mind. And also, if you guys are not aware, season 22 is only available through email right now, and you want to get on our email list. If you want to get on our email list, go to csjoseph.life, scroll to the bottom, put in your name, email, check the mark saying that you're at least 16 years old, and then you will receive email lecture access when the next email lecture is put out. Be advised. So, can INTJs have really high TI? No, but they can develop their TI critic and, get things handled out. OMG, you're a Potterhead? Not really, but I know a lot about Harry Potter. Elise asks, can SI demon be either overstimulating or understimulation? Absolutely, because SI demon can just binge and binge and binge sometimes, and it can be very self-destructive when they binge, such that they don't get any sleep and they end up developing horrible health problems because their circadian rhythm is crap. So be aware of that. Gustavo says, I'm an INTP and I think I can read people's minds. Do I have schizophrenia? I don't know. I'm not an expert in schizophrenia. Other than that, schizophrenia is related to poor gut health. How do you type infants? Using the type grid, of course. How do identical twins of the same type? No. What happened to Jab? Jab moved on and has his own gig now. So Grindelwald is an ENTP. Okay, so how does one conquer FE nemesis and TE inferior? By making sure that you're being caring instead of selfish and not caring what other people think. Good luck. And then book suggestions for ENTJ female regarding relationship and maximizing my abilities and skill. Rhea Panwar, look up The Ideal Team Player. Check out that book. And Codependent No More. Jab went on a safari. Yes, he did. How can INJs ever develop self-discipline? By having an SI user around. That's why I recommend INJs share a bed with an SI user. It helps them center themselves. Do you think Bernie Sanders is an INFJ? No, I don't. Are there any clear ways of looking at the subconscious and superego in the same way we talk about the hero, parent, child, inferior? Yeah, I'm sure there is. Jab did not get killed by a kangaroo. No. Jab is a good man. He's not a kangaroo. He is not kangaroo bait. He commands the kangaroos. If anything, he's out there and he's in the outback right now preventing certain people from enjoying the sniffing of gasoline. And can an ESFJ have a good marriage with another ESFJ? No. But if that's the case, you guys are probably mistyped. So keep that in mind. How do I become... if you want to verify your types, I offer couples coaching, guys. It's like intimacy coaching. Check it out. Intimacy coaching for couples. It's available at csjoseph.life/coaching. Check it out. What MBTI test do you recommend that's free? None of them. But if you have to take a test, do the human metrics test. It's only 25% accurate, but still, how about you just wait for my test to be released? Hopefully it's released before the end of the year. Commander of the kangaroos and preventer of gasoline abuse. Absolutely. That is Jab. And what's the difference between SE and SI strength and fatigue? Fatigue, both can get fatigued. I mean, introverted sensing, it's really introverted sensing. Extroverted sensing is all about finding good character or strength of character and building up character and endurance in other people, building strength. SI contains and holds strength within. Lucas Martinez says, Dave's superpowers promotes a hero child loop types called jumpers. Is that encouraging irresponsible, immature types or no? I mean, you could argue that it is, yes, but it's just they have underdeveloped parent function. Yorda speak, can you live stream later sometime so I don't miss them all? Yeah, I could. It's just hard. And yes, IQ is lame. Thank you, Stellar Memer, for saying that. Okay. How does intuition manifest in the daily lives of types who are intuitive? Wow, that's a crazy question. Thank you, Isabella, for asking that question. Let me check my drop frames here. Okay, cool. 0 drop frames. Awesome. All right, Isabella. We're just aware of what's possible. We're not really aware, or we're aware of things that are happening in the metaphysical realm. It's not literally like the what is. We're constantly plagued by the what if, and we live our life by the what if, not by what's actually happening. Okay. Madison Cole asks, is there a function that makes people more susceptible to believing conspiracy theories? I think it's extrovert intuition, if I was going to blame a specific function. Is there advice for an INFJ to maintain a routine? Yes. Be in a sexual relationship with an SI user who has a routine. That's the best advice. Otherwise, habits are very hard for INFJs. The other way is that have someone in your life that you would let down. Like, have a gym partner that if you didn't show up, you'd be letting them down. That's the only other advice I could give. Draxel Ken, do you think if we knew more about the brain, your theory would be verified? Yes. Do you think personality is formed of brain structure? I have no idea. I have to defer to Dario Nardi on this. Please check out his work. How do you know you haven't developed your subconscious? This is demonstrated in season 19. Go to patreon.com/csjoseph to get access to season 19 or csjoseph.life/Patreon. All the commercials. LOL. Okay. Okay. Some people claim to mostly think in pictures, not words. Could it be evidence of dominant intuition functions? Not necessarily, Denise. Does it have to be a sexual relationship? No, it does not. It's just recommended. Okay. Andre Daher, I'm a 20-year-old INTP and I desperately need a system to stop procrastinating. Is there something nice to read about this? If you are an INTP, then I suggest you stop, you literally turn off all of your internet access for 2 weeks and go through dopamine withdrawal symptoms. If you're an INTJ, which is what you likely are, then you need to realize that it's more of another issue. Check out How to Social Engineer INTJs for the answer to that question. Okay. Have you seen cognitive function tests like Keys to Cognition and IDR Labs? Those are like 70%. No, they're not. No, they're not. What type is Thomas Shelby? No idea. Any thoughts on how to get good at cold approach pickup? Check out How to Be a 3% Man by Corey Wayne. He's an ENFP. Check out The Game by Neil Strauss. He's an ENTP. How about you just don't do cold approach pickup and just be a real person? If you're an INTJ, then I would say this. Go up to somebody who's dressed in monochromatic or dark colors, who's obviously alone and minding their own business, and go up to them and ask them what they're doing and express interest in them that way by asking them what they're doing. There you go. There's your cold approach pickup as an INTJ. Congratulations. Okay. What types are most likely to get addicted to learning and reading about typology? Introverted, intuitive types. INJs and INPs. All right. That's it for tonight. I'm done. Thank you all for watching. Wanted to be kind of a longer episode for tonight. Really appreciate it, folks. I love you all dearly. And thank you for being members of my audience. And also thank you for being patient with me. Despite my failures, flaws, and my sicknesses as well. I'm very thankful for this audience as well. And the team and I are continuing to make good on our promises to deliver to this community. We're not giving up. And we really appreciate your patience. So we're moving forward. Things are happening. And also, guys, Ruby Conference tomorrow night at 8 Eastern. I'll be posting it in Patreon. So with that being said, folks, you all have a good night. And thanks for coming.